tell me if it's working.
Just set reminder.
There you go.
There we go. Yeah, okay. Now we're working.
I got to put it on the ball of truth. Please hold. Hold on, guys. We're coming. We're coming. That didn't sound good.
You had to go there.
Got to put this in TBT. Update. Show. Watch live. Press that shit. There we are. Okie dokie. Okay, guys, phones are on. Let's do this.
Helping the hair impaired one follicle at a time.
I swear to God, it's unbelievable. That's it. You just give them, you tell them the truth, and I'll say it again. You changed my life. I mean, you really, Dr. Bernstein, both of you guys, and obviously I wouldn't have found out about him if it wasn't for you.
A man who needs no introduction. Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, I figured I'd just do that for Joe. Actually, welcome to the show. We are 1 hour and 14 minutes late. That's 14 minutes past the hour of 3 here on the West Coast, and I want to apologize to everybody for being so late. But apparently, Joe has a new gig. He was on another podcast.
Hey man, the ladies want to talk to Joe. What can I say?
What ladies are those?
That would be the lady from the Women's Hair Loss Project.
Dude, that is, just so everyone knows, we are
nice segue.
Currently helping to produce the Women's Hair Loss Project podcast here from TBT Studios, and it has been a tremendous success. Actually, it's been such a success that I may just quit this gig and just produce that thing and just move on with my life.
Just sit behind the camera in his robe.
Listen, I got to tell you, it is a lot easier, and I actually enjoy it a lot because, first of all, it's a completely different side of the equation as far as hair loss is concerned. You're hearing women's stories. It's just unique. I get to kind of sit back and concentrate on the board, on the sound, not have to worry about cutting you off when I'm doing the show. This thing on?
That's nice.
So is the sound working for everybody? Because I just got a complaint that there may now be no sound. Is that my imagination? Sound is coming through our board here.
Complaint?
Oh, just a little birdie.
Or was it in your head again? Because you've been having that problem.
It could actually be in my head. Anyway, guys, listen, if you're new to the broadcast, don't know who we are, why we are here, I'm the founder of the American Hair Loss Association. I'm the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I am also the founder and the director of consumer patient affairs of the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. I mean, I can go on. I am a contributing editor to Consumers Digest, WebMD. I am the guy that has been dealing with hair loss for about 30 years. And I essentially turned my Achilles heel into my career because this industry has been fucked up since its inception. And now we live in a time, because there's so much access to everything, and everyone has access to putting out content and information so much more easier than ever before. The bullshit has scaled to a level of, disproportionate proportions, if that makes sense. For every hair loss sufferer, there seems to be 2 people blogging about it or vlogging about it, or it's insane what's out there, dude.
Yeah.
Or selling some shit. Look, if you are going to YouTube and getting information from a guy who lives in his mother's basement trying to sell you an ebook, you're probably not going to be helped. Wouldn't you agree, Joe?
I would agree, and it
You know
actually
what I
reminds
just realized? I just realized, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off. I'm
me
cutting
that you
you off.
haven't interrupted me yet.
I'm interrupting you right now because I don't have my bottom
Yeah.
third on, my lower third. There you go.
Ah, I'm noticing it. Okay, what are you going to do about it?
I just turned it on. Jesus, what's going on with my hair? Go ahead.
Squirrel. What? God, it's like, you're all over the place. That's hilarious.
What's that?
No, it reminds me. It reminds me of I forgot the name, like the Gemmell syndrome or Gammon syndrome, where an expert in something hears something about what they're expert on television or reads about it in an article or something, and they immediately question it because the information isn't in line with what their expertise dictates or confirms. But when they hear something that is outside of their realm of expertise, they don't question it. And I forgot. I just learned about this today. It's I forgot the name of it, but it reminds me about what we're dealing with. Like, so many people have their own little area of expertise in their lives, and they, whether it be welding or hunting or chemistry or whatever, they hear something along their own expertise, and they immediately critique it and they question it and they want to correct it. But when it comes to hair loss or something medical that can impact their lives physically, emotionally, financially, medically, they don't question it. And it's one of the last things that you should not question. And when it comes to hair loss and hair transplant surgery, which was what I was talking about on the Women's Hair Loss Project earlier, so many people have no idea what the repercussions are of their choices. And that's why you talk about this. That's why I talk about it, where surgery is the last resort. Always look to non-surgical solutions for your hair loss first before you get cut. And
guys, listen, once you're cut, you're cut. And the harsh reality is that the vast majority of physicians, and I use that term loosely, especially when they cross over to the dark side of the hair loss and hair transplant industry, the vast majority of physicians are not providing you with truly state-of-the-art surgical hair restoration or hair transplant surgery. And most of the guys out there now have no fucking clue what they're doing. It doesn't matter that they are an MD or DO. It doesn't matter that they went to medical school. That does not prepare them for this incredibly nuanced, one of the most difficult forms of cosmetic surgery that exists today. And because this type of surgery, this cosmetic surgery, hair transplant surgery, is marketed as a commodity, all of you idiots out there believe that all you have to do is save enough money, like you're buying a car, and just find a doctor. I was going to say go to Yellow Pages. Go somewhere, go online. That's how old I am. Go online and just, pick somebody out of a fucking hat. Or you're like, you know what? I can go to Turkey or India, which there are great clinics and surgeons there, but they're hard to find, like a needle in a haystack. And I can save thousands of dollars. I can get a all-inclusive hair transplant surgery for $1,500 as opposed to spending $15,000 or $20,000. You guys that are like, that sounds like a good idea. In what world is surgery a commodity? Think about that. Would you travel to Turkey based on an Instagram promotion?
Yes.
To have
a lot of people do.
But to have cardiac surgery? Would you do that?
Oh, but that's real surgery. Hair transplant isn't real surgery.
But that's the point. Exactly. I know that was tongue-in-cheek.
Yes.
But let me tell you something. This surgery is as serious as a heart attack. You're literally wearing this on your sleeve, on your head. It's the first thing people see. And, I know guys who've actually gone to clinics who they think and other people think they've had good surgery. But people know, they're like, that's a good hair transplant. You don't want someone to say you've had a good hair transplant.
No. That is probably one of the best lines that L. Lee Bosley came up with about the naturalness of a hair transplant. The best hair, I forgot, I'm paraphrasing. The best transplant is the one that no one sees, or something like that. Do you remember that?
I do remember
He had those
that.
in the commercials?
I remember basically almost every line that Larry Lee Bosley ever used. It's burned in my fucking brain.
Burden your psyche. But yeah, the best hair transplant is the one that people don't notice. And that is so true today, more so now than ever.
It is true. And based on that, I'm going to take your calls in a second, guys. The phone number is 888-659-3727. So keep holding. 888-659-3727. What reminds me of that story reminds me of another story that a former employee of Bosley told me. He was a well-known physician who worked for Bosley for a long time, back in the 70s and the 80s, early 80s. And a couple of twins, obviously guys, young guys, come into the clinic, and they want a very specific type of a hair transplant. Essentially, they wanted to be able to part their hair in the middle, and they wanted to kind of have all the hair weighted directly in the center, in a very unorthodox way, let's put it that way, especially back in the day when they're doing mini micros. And they also wanted to have what they used to sell back in the day was scalp reduction surgery. So this guy is sitting there having a consultation, watching Larry Lee do his thing. And Larry Lee is like, yeah, of course we can do that. We can do the exact same procedure on both of you, the exact same way. And it'll work out perfectly. Now I'm forgetting the story. But the bottom line is, what this guy told me is that, you know, when they walked out, this young doctor said to Larry Lee, are we really able to do that? I don't think that's possible to make that look good. He goes, I said we could do it. I didn't say we're going to make it look good. And that's the story. That is the reality. And you know what? Do you think anything has changed today? In 2020? Yeah, do you think anything has changed today? Yeah, they can do it. You can move 5,000 grafts in one sitting. We're not going to say it's going to look good, though.
Right.
All right, guys, look, phone number 888-659-3727. Sorry we started late today. If you have any questions or concerns about your hair loss, if you have surgery scheduled for Monday, or sadly, there are people who have surgery scheduled for Saturday or Sunday, believe it or not, call us. Let us know who you decide to go to. If you have any questions, you know, it's not too late to save your fucking life. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
This is Jay from Charlotte.
Jay from Charlotte. What's happening, my man?
Hello, Jay.
Hey, guys. It's good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you too, sir.
Okay. I started Avodart. It's been about 3 months, okay? It was after I heard you guys talk. It might have been back in the late summer. You guys were discussing how generics weren't as good as the name brands, except maybe the Israeli brand. So
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want to make it clear to people. We didn't say that it wasn't as good. There are genetics that are as good and that are as potent. The problem with many generics is that they, they don't have to go through the same rigorous, what's the word that I'm looking for, Joe? The rigorous, please help me. Please help me.
Examination,
protocols.
Quality control.
Quality control, that's it. In the manufacturing process, depending on in what part of the world these drugs are being manufactured. There's also a lack of consistency from many generic pharmacies. So, there are some great generics coming out of India, but what manufacturing plant or what pharmaceutical company is manufacturing it, you don't really ever know. So when we say to stick to brand name, it's all about consistency of the product. And sadly, when people go on generics, they don't realize that their pharmacy, in many cases, will just switch generics on them without even telling them. And then they go to the pharmacy. One week they get a blue pill, next week they get a white pill, and they think it's finasteride. It must all be the same, and that's what's being sold to you. And we've seen guys who have either switched themselves or have been switched without their knowledge, all of a sudden lose ground. So that's really the point.
Okay. Well, I've been taking dutasteride ever since it was introduced, whenever that was, way back when. And I noticed in 2018, early 2018, I was shedding a lot. I was losing a lot of ground. And I continued to take it until, like I said, a couple of months ago. In mid-December, I started with the GSK brand, the Avodart, and I'm not shedding near as much. So I assume that's what the issue was all along. I know that dutasteride went generic maybe late 2015 or whatever. So I don't know how long I've been taking generics, but I didn't really notice profuse shedding until early 2018. So this is my question. I saw Dr. Cooley. I saw Dr. Cooley about a month ago, and we discussed exosomes. And I'm wondering if I should go ahead and get the treatment and try to get back what I've lost these last couple of years, or just wait and let the Avodart work.
How long have you been on Avodart now?
Ever since it came out, I've been on. Well, I've been on the GSK name brand for 3 months.
Okay.
But I started dutasteride. I started Avodart probably I don't know when it, maybe the early 2000s.
Okay, so you were on the generics, or sorry, you were on generic and then the name brand at one point. Sorry, I missed that, but can you repeat that?
I'm sorry, I didn't make it clear, Joe. I'm sorry. Yeah, when Avodart first came out, I was on it for years and years, and then I started to receive the generics, but I don't know exactly when. I suspect it was probably 2017, maybe. And early 2018 is when I really started to thin out, and it started to look really awful, Crypt Keeper kind of awful. So, yeah. And now I'm just wondering, maybe I should just go ahead, because Dr. Cooley, he told me that the exosomes, if I took the exosomes or received the exosome treatment and got on oral minoxidil, I'd probably see significant regrowth. I'd like to talk to you guys about oral minoxidil too, but I don't know. I don't know if I should wait and just take the name brand, the Avodart, for 6-8 months, and or just okay.
In my opinion, you need to give it the time it deserves to do what it's supposed to do. After 3 months, that's not enough time. You need at least 6 months to see. That's a bare minimum to see if it's going to do anything, and then at that point, maybe consider a reevaluation. But if you start to see improvements at 6 months, then who's to say it's not going to continue to improve for 12 months?
Right.
You don't know. Now, the issue has to do with you got these other options that are being shared with you. They're not going anywhere. They'll be around in 12 months. They'll be around in a year or whenever you might want to consider looking at it again. But I think there's no need to rush. And the more potential treatments that you introduce at once, you lose all all chance of knowing which one's working for you, so that in a year, if you decide to stop one, you're too scared to death to do it because you don't know if that's the one that's actually causing the improvements. So I'm a big believer in segmenting off your treatments individually to see what works and what doesn't. So if your medication now starts to show improvements by 6 months, maybe continue with that for several more months, and then reevaluate at 1 year, and then maybe introduce something new. The oral minoxidil or the exosomes or whatever else is presented as an option. But I don't believe in mixing everything together too close as far as the timeline goes.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that sounds very reasonable.
I will jump in here to make you feel better. I concur. And I'm not a physician, and neither is Joe, but I absolutely think that, being that you are either just switched or you're considering getting on name brand, give it time. Just give it time, because as soon as you've been on one form of the medication or another for quite a long time, why introduce something new into your body right now that honestly, when it comes to oral minoxidil, I don't know if Joe said this, I mean, there are some very variable adverse side effects depending on the person that could be pretty pronounced and profound, I think. I'm not sure if it's worth the risk unless you really, feel like you're losing tremendous ground and you want to do whatever you can.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, I was just a little worried that maybe I wouldn't, since I've been losing it for a couple of years now, I wouldn't get back to where I was.
It's only a couple of years, I mean, if the hair is still pumping out, if the follicles are still pumping out hair, even if they're miniaturized and they have a shorter lifespan, if you get it to where you can reverse that miniaturization, you have hair that's growing in those follicles, from those follicles. So it's very possible. I mean, the average range, or what medicine or physicians in this industry claim, they say you can probably reverse or regrow hair within about 5 years of noticing that it's miniaturized. So that's a pretty long period of time if you've just noticed that you've been losing ground for a couple of years.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Good, that's what we're here for, man.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and you do it well.
Thank you, man.
I've got a couple. I've got a couple of my old bottles here, and one of them is from China. It's from a company called Epic Pharma, and one of them is Strides, Strides, and they are from India. So I'm assuming that's probably why, but here again, I'm not sure.
It definitely depends, but I mean, I think this coronavirus brought a lot of information into the public's eye, or for public consumption, that a lot of the public didn't really know prior to this, epidemic, or it's not a pandemic yet, but there are a lot of components or ingredients in our medications that are actually manufactured in China, and then even if you're getting a name brand that is essentially used for products manufactured here in the U.S. And I found that to be incredibly disturbing. I knew that it was happening, but I had no idea at what level. The reason I bring that up is you mentioned the Chinese generic. Because I don't know, if I had a choice of getting a generic, I don't know if I would want to get it from China. But now we're finding out that so many of our drugs that are manufactured here also have ingredients that are manufactured in China. Fucks me up.
Yeah. I heard that too, and it's like, oh boy, I wasn't happy to hear that.
Yeah. So I bring that up because if I had a choice of what generic to choose, I would probably choose. Again, there's some great generics being made in Israel. I do know of a couple of decent manufacturers in India, but I don't know if I would choose a Chinese manufacturer for varying reasons. of a drug, and now we're finding out we may not even have a choice. But anyway, I know I just went off topic, but it just reminded me of this information that I was really just made privy to. But as far as you're concerned, man, I think you're, listen to Joe, I think you're making the right move, and it is possible to actually see a lot of hair growth from, especially if you just say that you've been losing ground for the last 1 or 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent.
All right, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, one more, oral minoxidil.
Holy shit, here we go. I just told you. I just told you how I felt about oral minoxidil.
Yeah, just told you.
I don't.
Well, I wasn't listening.
it seems like you were against it the last time it came up.
I have to say that I've seen guys, especially if they're well monitored, that have done well with it. But I believe there's too much of a risk unless you are. If this is your last ditch effort, I could understand it. And if it's like you cannot go on without trying this and without having hair, then okay, give it a shot if you're being monitored by a physician. And then I think that's reasonable, especially if it's being prescribed by somebody who's responsible. But, it's oral minoxidil, dude.
I'm a little afraid of it. From what I've seen, it affects the heart and,
Yeah, I personally, like, I had a discussion with Dr. Wong when I was working with him years ago, because I've seen really good results with oral minoxidil, but we discussed it, and I personally don't feel comfortable with the potential side effects. When you start talking about cardiac side effects, oh hell no! I don't care how much hair it can regrow. Not interested. Keep it away from me.
Right. Same here, buddy.
All right, man. Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck. Hang in there. Let us know how you do, all right?
I will. Thanks a lot.
You got it.
Okay. See ya.
Hey, guys, I know
All right,
that
thanks
we
for calling.
I know that we started late, but we do have phone lines open. So, honestly, I can go get some fucking food because I produced this other show earlier, and I'm tired and hungry. So if you guys...
I was on another show earlier.
Yeah.
I'm tired and hungry.
So if you guys don't call in, I'm going to just call it a night. So we'll give you some time. The phone number is 888-659-3727. That's 888-659-3727. We're live doing the Hair Loss Show, here to provide you guys with the opportunity to ask your questions and get legitimate answers. From two guys who have been in the trenches, in the field. It is now my 22nd year doing this broadcast. Why, from the Women's Hair Loss Project, she wanted to do a little interview with me before she spoke to you. She's like, essentially said that I've been in the industry for 35 years or some shit like that. I'm like, hold on for a second. I know you're young, but how old do you think I am? Jesus Christ.
So you've been in the hair loss industry for 93 years? Right?
Basically, I invented it, apparently.
Yeah, it's because of you.
That's how old I am.
That's awesome.
All right, guys, 888-659-3727. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, guys, it's JP from New York.
Hey, JP, what's happening, man? How are you?
What up, JP?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing tonight?
You know what? We're doing all right. Not at least I'm doing okay. I can't speak for Joseph Tillman.
He'll interrupt me speaking, but he won't speak for me.
Oh, you know what? He was on a program where he wasn't interrupted for an hour and a half. And now he's getting a little
gold.
Now he's getting a little
gold.
bit, cocky about that.
Oh my goodness!
It's so sad that that's something to get cocky over. No one's interrupting me.
He has I guess apparently I've given him post-traumatic stress disorder because I interrupt him all the time.
What? Oh.
See, someone's got to keep the show rolling. Go ahead, man.
Hey guys,
what's going on, JP?
Not much. I'm just calling because, as you guys know, when you do a hair transplant, so I'm going for the hair transplant. Like, I know you guys remember. I don't know if you do remember, but I do have hair transplant surgery with eugenics.
Oh, I remember. You just had a
Oh,
we just had a
okay, yeah,
conversation
yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I saw Dr. Pradeep. It was awesome seeing him. It was great going to downtown.
Oh, when he was in Jersey doing consultations.
He actually was in New York on the 2nd,
Okay.
so he had a whole bunch of visitors. It was great seeing him. He gave me some good details. He signed the book that I brought that he wrote, so that was fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm still going ahead with the surgery, but I have some questions regarding the future, right? When you do hair transplant surgery, it's all about donor management, right? Something that I've learned that's the most important thing about hair transplant surgery is your donor management. So,
Yes.
2020 looks like, I feel like, if you look at old movies, 2020 is the future, right? I mean, you go back to, Back to the Future, Blade Runner, everything is in 2020.
We are living in the future, my man.
Exactly. We are in the future.
Right.
So I wanted to bring this up. I heard that there's a lot of like research with stem cell research, and I'm going to bring this up because actually Pradeep had a gentleman there that does stem cell research, and he was talking about all the latest technologies that they have with that program, right? So I've been doing some research, and it seems like they've been going. The stem cell research has advanced a lot. We have, I'm sure you guys heard of this, of Riken in Japan. I'm sure you heard of that.
Yes.
Of them. And they're already starting, supposedly this year, clinical studies on human trials, right? With stem cell, a hair transplant using stem cells, and they're going to start. If they're starting clinical trials in humans, that means that there must have been some progress with that on animals, I guess, right, on rats. So if they did those studies and they're confident that they now could go ahead and start doing clinical studies on humans, that means they've done some progress. My assumption is that right. So if they're already doing clinical
logically,
studies, yeah, right. So if they're already doing that in 2020, and I'm thinking about my donor management, then I'm trying to think, how is it going to be 10 years from now? Do you think this is something that is going to be available for everyone 10 years from now? I'm sure the price is going to be high, right?
I can tell you this, that it's available for people right now. Does it work? Do the people who are providing stem cell treatments or treatments that are and I just did air quotes if you can't see me, or treatments that claim to be stem cell treatments, are they actually stem cell treatments? Are they benefiting anybody? That's an interesting question. It's not stopping people from selling it. Now, it's interesting that you're talking about a legitimate company doing clinical trials. There's a lot of clinical trials that have been started and stopped, or started and continued since I've been in this industry. If you would have asked me 22 years ago about hair cloning, and that if we would have had some sort of cell-based or cellular rejuvenation process available to us 5 years after I started in 1998, I would have said yes, because I did say yes. That was all the talk. And you know what? The same guys, some of the same guys, who back then when I started, who were jumping on the hair cloning bandwagon and promoting it through my show or through the mainstream media, they are now jumping on exosomes. They are now jumping on different stem cell treatments. Now, do I sound like a negative Nelly? I guess I do. But I'm also a realist.
Yeah.
You will hear about it. It'll be much more prominent news when they are closer to making this happen. There will be universities like Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, other universities who are going to get funding and have teams of scientists working on this stuff. I am not a fan of hanging my hopes on these private companies or companies that are going public or are recently, did IPOs, whatever it is, and they send out these press releases. to get attention and to create a buzz and to get investors, because that seems to be the way the hair loss industry goes when it comes to this type of therapy. So,
Yeah.
I don't want to be negative, but I want you to be a realist. If you are considering having a hair transplant today based on the idea that you're going to have much more effective treatments in 10 years, or that stem cell therapy is going to change the game in hair transplants or in hair loss, don't get a hair transplant. You have to work with what you have today. Today, these treatments have minimal results at best.
Yeah. I mean, it's just for me. It's just I'm happy to hear that they're already doing these type of clinical trials. I know they've done this in the past, but from what I've read, they've done a lot of progress, and I do look forward to the time, or I hope I'm alive when they could clone this and you give a sample of your hair follicle, and then 6 months later you come back and they just have a tray of donor hair there that they just transplant.
Yeah, and listen, that's the holy grail. But there are companies
that's the dream.
There are companies out there, and it's mind-boggling, and they're legitimate physicians, or some of them may not be legitimate. I don't know, but they're actually doctors who are involved with these companies, who are essentially charging vulnerable people to bank their hair for the future, for future cloning. How fucking insane is that? And you know what? You know how many suckers are going to do that? And I'll tell you what, if I see it really taking off, maybe, and I'll let you guys know, and I'll do it almost as a joke, but I'll get it done properly. Maybe I'll start a company here in the U.S., and I'll get the FDA involved, and I'll somehow get legal clearance to make this happen. And you know what? Give me your money and let me bank all your fucking hair, people. At least we'll be doing some good with it and educating consumers.
I think that's a great plan, Spencer. I mean, think about it. It'll be a multi-million-dollar industry if you could just offer like those type of services. You know,
of course I can. Why can't I do it? These guys are doing it. And half these guys, I mean, it's amazing that they got through medical school when you speak to them in person.
Yeah.
That's
true.
So there is a part of me that's like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to be 55 years old. No one gives a shit. They're going to give their money. They're going to give their money to somebody else.
Yeah.
I might as well take it and use it to really get, really pump the word out there.
Yeah.
I'll do a documentary about it, about how many fucking suckers sent me $1,000, and I'll do it for like a 2-year, run, and do like a documentary, and then basically show the dollar signs and how much I made, and say that this was just a social experiment.
Oh my God!
And even if I went out there and said we're doing this as a social experiment, people will still pay me. That's how dumb motherfuckers are.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring that up just because, I'm just limited with donor hair, and when I go to eugenics next week, I just want to be able to try. They probably won't be able to do fully what I want. They're great at being able to transplant body hair from the beard. Mm-hmm. I remember last time, I think it was last Tuesday, during the last call, there was a patient who called your radio show, and they talked about they had a hair transplant surgery from their body, right? But for some reason, that body hair didn't take. And then he wanted maybe some sort of experiment. They will take from here and from there and from this other place until they find the holy grail or hair or the hair that would stick. Is that so? I thought hair transplant from the body. Is there like is the body hair not won't catch as good as regular? No, really.
No. Here's my list of effective donor sources in order, starting with the most reliable ending with the least reliable. So scalp hair is king. If you got scalp hair that can be transplanted, that's what you start with. Once you go through the scalp hair, then you can add beard hair as a second most reliable source of alternative donor. Some people call it body hair because it's not on the scalp. Most people just refer to it as beard hair. It is the most reliable behind scalp hair. Numbers will vary depending on the clinic you're talking to, but usually, like if scalp hair is classified as having a 95 to 98% survival rate, like it has for the past 40 years, zoom in for effect, then beard hair will have maybe an 80% survival rate, depending on all the variables that it usually depends on. After that, you got chest hair and back hair, even keel footing. And the reason why it's more difficult to transplant is two reasons. Number one, the hair tends to be a bit more delicate as far as the follicle goes, going through the process, so it's easier to damage. But when you're also going in, to the tissue, there's a lot more give. Or I'll say that the body area that you're taking the grafts from, like say the chest, is a lot more pliable than on your scalp. On your scalp, you've got just a few millimeters of tissue before you hit, solid skull, and so there's not much pliability with the tissue. So when that punch is going into the tissue, the skin doesn't sink, if that makes sense. On your chest, you got a lot more tissue there. It's a lot more pliable. So when that punch is going in, the follicle kind of bends under the pressure. And so when the punch is trying to encapsulate and go completely around that follicle, there's a lot more transection, and it's because of that. So there's just more damage to that hair, so it doesn't grow as well. In the best hands, it might be 60%, but in my experience, it can be between 30 and 50% growth. Just what I see out there in general. Some clinics claim higher, and they do have results out there that show that they have experience with it. But when you're throwing 20,000 grafts at something, and you get some growth, it's kind of hard to quantify how much of it actually grew. You also have a lot more percentage of single hair follicles with body hair or chest hair or back hair than you do doubles, triples, and quads like you do on the scalp. So there's also the quality difference. And then after that, you got leg hair, which is really difficult to transplant successfully. And it just continues to decline from there.
I got it. That explains it. That explains why, it has less survival rate than scalp, I guess, because of when they do the punches. Yeah, I can see why then. All right.
Cheers.
All right. So, well, I'm looking forward to my hair surgery with eugenics in a week or so. So as long as I don't get coronavirus in the airport on my trip out there, then I'll post some results on the forum or send it to you guys.
You won't be symptomatic for at least 2 weeks after you catch it. So you'll have your surgery and be back home in no time to recover.
Thanks, Joe.
Hey, man, that's what I'm here. I'm Mr. Sunshine. That's my nickname. No, good luck with it. You're going to be taken well care of. Yes,
and that's why I chose eugenics. I've done research before on them, and then when you mentioned them, I was like, wow, Joe's talking about them, and I heard about them and knew about them before you even mentioned them on YouTube. Yeah. So I think once you mentioned it, that's pretty much what sealed the deal for me. I was like, I'm just going to go for it. Because I held off for a long time. I was like, well, I'm 44, and I know surgery is the last resort. But at this time, I'm like, why not? I think under their hands, I have a better chance than not, right? I mean,
I'm going to interrupt you, and I agree that you're going to a great clinic, and these guys, Pradeep or Dr. Shetty is, not only is he a wonderful person, he's an incredibly skilled surgeon, and so is his wife, and so is everyone on staff. They're great at what they do. I personally, based on your description of yourself and your life and your age and your current situation, status in life, the fact that you shaved your head for so long and live a life and have a beautiful wife and you have money in the bank and you're still young, relatively young, I think it's a bad move. That's it. Now, again, Dr. Setti's part of the IHRS. He pays he pays his dues to be a part of the IHRS. He's accepted into what we do. But he also knows that if anyone contacts me, I'm going to tell them the truth, how I feel about it. And to me, the truth is you're setting yourself up for the potential of being unhappy when you're kind of happy now, or you at least you've been satisfied for a very long time.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, there is always that potential, right? It could go great, or I could get necrosis on my scalp, and I've seen those videos and Joe,
Yeah,
on YouTube where
it ain't pretty.
It's not pretty at all. But I think Spencer, I think my life has always been the life of taking risks. I like to reduce my risks. I take finasteride, but finasteride has its risks as well, right? So I still take it. I did SMP. SMP had its risk, and it came out great. I really loved the results, and it was 5 years ago, and I mean it's faded since then, but it still looks realistic. And I have a plan of action, obviously, right? Even with necrosis, if that was to set in, I could let that pass by and do another hair transplant over that, right? It's still, supposedly it'll still take. And as far as the procedure, I'm going for few. So I know that the scarring will be a lot less than strip. It'll still be there.
actually, the scarring is far greater than in strip. I mean, if you actually do if you measure the amount of scar tissue.
Yeah.
Look at the math.
If you look at the math, the back of your scalp is going to be completely scarred, as opposed to the actual, what is it called? I guess it'd be dimensions of the scar, the actual measurements of a strip scar compared to the measurements taken of the type of scarring you get from having punctate wounds all over your scalp.
Yeah. That's true, because it's with few, it's over a bigger amount of area, right? Where strip.
Well, no. Well, that's true, but if you take the total surface area of the scar tissue alone, not the area where the scar is located, but the actual scar tissue, if you measure each punctate wound, the scar from that, and combine that into a total surface area of scar tissue alone, it is far greater than what you get from one strip scar.
Yeah. That makes that makes sense. But then you have to take into account that you're right about that. But with few, the scars are less visible than if you were to do a few, right? I mean, I've seen pictures, and you can see it's a lot less visible. And depends. Of course, it depends on the skills of the doctor. Also, I mean, you could have a bad doctor, and you can't compare few with few.
It depends on the doctor, the kind of tools he's using, the kind of patient you are, your physiology, how you heal, the haircut that you decide to have, the hair color to scalp color contrast ratio, the density of your hair around in between the extractions. When can I stop? I mean, there's so many things. Yeah. It reminds me earlier, you said that you like to take risks and kind of live on the edge a little bit. How old are you? I forgot.
I'm 44, but I like to take
44. So you remember back in the 90s. Did you ever watch Saturday Night Live in the 90s?
Yeah, of course.
remember the skit in the early 90s? Got David Spade, Phil Hartman, Kevin Conley, and they got this commercial. You know how they do the fake commercial? One of my commercials that they used to do.
Your internet's crapping out. I'm not cutting you off, dude. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, you broke up there for a second.
So your video's frozen.
Okay, here now. Okay, it's moving. There we go. I need to talk to my provider. Anyway, so the skit back in the 90s called Bad Idea Jeans. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
Look it up. Look it up. You will laugh your ass off, and it'll put your situation in better perspective.
Yeah. But to me, it's a calculated risk, a measured risk. There's risk everywhere. I mean, I could go outside. I'd get in the car and drive somewhere as a risk, right? But I'm trying to minimize my risk with hair transplant surgery. I'm trying to go to great doctors, and I'm trying to minimize, a procedure going bad. Like for a few, I do plan to do SMP afterwards, after maybe my second hair transplant operation, because the plan is I'm going to go there next week. They're going to do, there's going to be 2 days. They're going to do the front part of my scalp the first day and the mid part the second day. So then I'm going to go back for a third. If I decide to, the third one maybe a year later for the crown. I'm thinking maybe with an asteroid. I mean, my crown is not that bad, right? And I'm okay with a thin crown. But I do plan to use SMP after like a year or so after my transplant. If I decide what, I'm not going to go for a third hair transplant, then I'll do SMP just to cover any scars that could be left there from you, any small little scars.
Stop.
The whole
Stop.
fucking plan is fucked up, dude.
Is this the guy? Wait, were we talking to him in the past couple of weeks where he had all these plans about to? It was last week. Okay, dude, you're making plans to have one procedure to take care of the shortcomings of another procedure, assuming that everything's going to work out.
Yeah. But
just stop. That's not going to happen.
I've had SMP before, and I had a scar, and it did the SMP over the scar, and it came out great. You can't even see my scar on my head. And Joe, you've had 10 surgeries. You had 10 surgeries. I know the first three were the first two were horrible. I know that because that was done a long time ago. I don't know if it was because the technology wasn't there yet, or
Nope.
It
was a bad doctor.
Yeah, exactly. But you went to Dr. I think it was Wong for the rest of your other procedures, and he's done great results. And you've had 10 surgeries. Do you still feel
I know where you're going with this. Let me stop you right there. Listen. Not all those surgeries were to add hair. Like, I had to have a scar revision after my third procedure with him because the donor scar stretched in the back. That's why I always had long hair, because I had, it didn't bother me, but I wasn't really interested in having a short haircut at the time. But the occipital donor scar across the back of my scalp was 5 millimeters at one point.
My goodness.
Half a centimeter. Wow. So I had to have that revised. That was my fourth surgery, where that was revised. It was cut out. It healed fine. Like, it was still not as narrow as we'd like to have it, but it probably reduced it by half. But then that was it. Like, no more surgery for that area. Then I had surgery. The fifth surgery was where he took 2 strips, one from either side of the scalp, and he didn't touch the back. He still joined them all up into one scar, but it was one strip on one side, one strip on the other. It got 1,400 grafts, $1,399, and that was my last strip surgery. And then 9 years later, 9 years? Wait, 2000? No. 9 years later, I had the FUE procedure, which was only just under 700 grafts. So not all of them were great. Yeah, it does come back to bite you at some point.
Yeah, but you still took that risk, even though you had the first 2 surgeries were horrible. You still said, you know what, I'm going to risk it and go for the third one. You still did that.
Well, I had no choice. Dude, I had no choice for the third one. I just got divorced. I was 31 years old, like prime, humping age, in Seattle, which back then it was like a really cool town back in 2000, 2001. And there were women everywhere. And I had to get back into the dating scene.
Yeah.
I looked horrible. So I had no choice. It's like, I can't shave my head. And it wasn't because of the donor scars. I didn't care about the scars. I had 2 of them. And they were both wide. It's because those ant legs sticking out of my head. I shave them down, they start growing back immediately, and it looks like tree stumps.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah, I wanted nothing to do with that, so I had no choice. Like I had to, and it just happened. And here's another thing: I lucked out because back then, I did research. I met patients in person, but I still looked out because it wasn't the kind of research that I tell people that I would do today or that I tell others to do today. So I looked out. But even those surgeries, they were calculated risks because, I knew that if something happened, like the doc was right there. Like my office was 50 feet from the OR. And if something went wrong, I just have to wait a few months for it to heal, and then I could, get it fixed.
I love this guy.
Get it addressed.
I love that he's a fan. I love that you call in all the time, and you normally take our advice. I also love the fact that you did your research, and at the very least, you have found a great clinic with a really good track record. It's an ethical place, and you're going to get a reasonable price because you're willing to travel to India.
Yeah. It's just,
dude, I'm telling you, man. Listen, it's no skin off my back, I mean, and frankly, I deal with less bullshit hearing from these doctors saying, "Why'd you talk this guy out of surgery?" But if I were you, there's no fucking way I would do it. I know. And look, I have access to everybody. I can get it done for free. I could actually have these guys, if I wanted Pradeep to fly here and use a facility here so that his hands were the only hands touching my scalp. I could arrange that, and it wouldn't cost me a dime. He'd pay for his own flight.
I mean, you Spencer, you feel lucky enough that you were at a place in a position in your life because of what you've accomplished and what you've done with this topic, that you have doctors probably saying, hey, a lot of doctors are willing to just even terminate any appointments they have and go give you a hair transplant for free and PRP sessions. So obviously,
I can go in if I want to have PRP every 3 months or 4 months. I can go right down the road. They would actually not even charge me their cost of their exosomes. And I'm not just saying that to be an asshole or to be an asshole, to be obnoxious. It's the fact that, why do you think I don't do any of this shit?
Well, Spencer, you're one of the few people out there that is blessed to be able to have started with finasteride a while back. You still have a great mane on your head. So unless you have a baldy, Spencer, I don't know if you would think that way,
Listen, I agree with you. I don't mean to cut you off, but I couldn't. I'm not equipped to be bald. I'm not equipped to have a baldy. So if I had to go that route, yes, I would be doing whatever else I can. Besides, right now, listen, I've lost ground. I use more paint on my bald spot. A ton of hairspray on today. I had to produce another program, and I kind of rushed getting ready today. I'm like, what the fuck happened to my hair? Like, I'm constantly having an issue. I'm never completely satisfied. But you have lived your entire adult life with a shaved head. You've gotten married. I'm assuming you have children. You have a life. You are successful. You said that you feel good about yourself in general. And you just want to, well, you know what? I want to get to this another stage of my life. Now it's time. But you've had success. I mean, how'd you meet your wife? Were you bald when you met your wife?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. And is she the woman of your dreams, or the type of woman that you, or if you get a full head of hair, are you going to trade her in?
No, of course not.
All right. Well, listen, there are guys who would do that.
Yeah.
No, of course not. But it's just I like you mentioned, I've been bald for all my life. I think we're at a crossroads right now where the treatments that they have out there are great, and we have great qualified doctors out there that could do this process. Like, for example, if I was a girl and I had no breast, I would get breast transplant, right? Of course, I may get a tit look going left and another tit going right. But that's the risk, right? I mean, but there's breasts there that come out looking beautiful, right? So,
totally different analogy, man. You had lost your hair, and you made a choice to shave your head, and you lived a life that was successful. Now, there's women out there who decide to get breast implants. They're not transplants, by the way; they're implants. And sorry, I'm just being an asshole. But you know, and there's various reasons why they decide to do that. But most women who have come to terms with they're comfortable with their identity and feel like, you know what, I look, you know, I mean, first of all, I have, on a personal level, I have no problem with a woman who's, I mean, depending on her body type, she could have very small breasts. You know, it really depends on I mean, if a woman's bigger, you know, she has to have more balance. But, you know, I think that it's different when you are losing something than you once had than trying to augment something that you've never had. That's A.
Yep.
And also, in your particular case, you lost something. You were able to, you were emotionally equipped to shave your head and live a successful life. And now you just basically want, it's like, okay, now I have the money and time. I'm going to get myself that, you know, that AMG or whatever your dream car is. This is a different thing. This is your biological organism. You know, this is a process that could really fuck you up if every aspect of it doesn't go well. You know, It's not just like, okay, I've made it. Now I'm going to get my hair. This is something I've always wanted. I'm just going to do it. It's just a different thing, dude. Listen.
And let me ask you this. What happens if it doesn't work out the way you want? Like, what if, and this is not a slight against the clinic, because I think they're one of the best clinics out there, but every clinic has cases that don't turn out. So what if you're that case? What if it doesn't grow?
That's a great point. So let's look at the side effects, right? What happens? So here are the side effects of a bad hair transplant. Let me know if I'm missing any. There's necrosis, right? You could, after necrosis cures, I mean, I God forbid I get that. That's like the worst thing that could happen in a hair transplant is get necrosis, right?
That's pretty bad.
In my opinion.
That's not the worst thing. That's not the worst thing that can happen. You want to know the worst thing that can happen?
Death.
You die.
Death.
Yeah. But that's if I go maybe to Turkey and they don't do, you know, blood testing of to see if you're allergic to that, right?
You could have a stroke. You could have a stroke. You could have a stroke in the chair. You could have a heart attack.
I'm pretty healthy. Actually, the one thing that eugenics required me to do was to send my blood test. And I had to go to a doctor here in the U.S., send my blood test out there. And when I go there, they're going to do further blood tests as well.
Listen, any clinic does that. I mean, yeah, they want to make sure that you're in good health, but it's also all about liability and mitigating their liability.
Yeah. Oh, of course. You know, it's obviously, you're right. They're expensive. But, okay, so I could die. But I'm going to...
And when you sign that waiver, it's going to say you can die.
Yeah, but I could die... I could die taking a dump tomorrow, you know.
Yeah, but you don't have to. You don't have to sign a fucking waiver when you go sit on the pot.
Exactly. And no one will know because your wife's not going to tell. You know, it's not going to be in your obituary. You know, he strained too hard while he's on the can.
Yeah.
You know.
All right.
Look, my point is this. Listen, there's someone in the chat room saying that I'm trying to justify my 10 hair transplants and I'm a hair transplant blocker. The reason why I could have those 10 is because I could. It's like it was there, and I'm mentally equipped to deal with it if it gets fucked up. But as it stands now, I can't fuck up my hair. Like, I've had so many hair transplants, I've got so much hair in my head now from surgery that if I had another surgery and it didn't grow, it'd be hard to even tell. Like this last surgery I had put me over the top. So if I had, say, another 500 grafts into my crown, it would be difficult to tell if only half of them grew. I wouldn't be able to tell.
I think that's taking it too far because, I mean, your crown, last time I checked, it looks great. I mean, I saw that.
That's my point, though. That's my point. And I'm mentally prepared. If it doesn't work out, I'd be like, okay, well, I wasted the hair, but I'm whatever. Like, I don't look at these, like, if I were not who I am, if I was someone that was looking to you know, like you're doing, if it didn't work out for me, I would be devastated.
Yeah.
Like, all this time I've gone without a hair transplant, been shaving my head, lived my life, got my hot wife, everything's fine. I gambled, did a hair transplant halfway around the world. It didn't work out. I'd be fucked up, man. That would mess. That would mess with me.
I want to. What's the word? I'm like, Jesus Christ! Am I getting fucking brain fog? I just haven't eaten all day. I haven't eaten all day. I wanted to address something that was written in the chat. Someone wanted to know if there's any documented images of Spencer's hair loss. Isn't this enough, people? Isn't this enough for you fuckers? Jesus Christ! You think I would choose this style?
But Joe, answer me honestly. I want an honest answer from you. Let's say you could go back in time. From Joe.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Honest answer. Go back in time. Aside from those first 2 surgeries, let's say you forget about that. You heard about one first time. Would you have gone through hair surgery via Wong if you go back in time? I mean,
no.
Would you have the wife you have now? Would you have the money that you have now, or the popularity that you have now, and the prestige you have now? Or would you have just not gone for the hair surgery and shaved your head?
That's easy. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't do it. Like really? if I was like say I was further along in life, like 25, 30, whatever, and my future self came back and said, this is what's going to happen. This is what you can look forward to for your life. I wouldn't do it.
And here's why. You have, with the beautiful mane of hair that you have right now.
No. Because the road to this spot was not easy. Like, I love my life now, no question about it. And I'm consistent with this. I say this all the time. If I could go back and tell my early self not to do it, I would. But, I didn't say that right. Sorry. If I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have done it. But if I had a chance to go back and fix it, I also wouldn't do that, because I do enjoy where I am. I love my hair. I love my life. But I wouldn't do it again. And like, my head shape is great for shaving. Like when I was in the Merchant Marines, I was right before my hair transplant. My head was shaved. I was in the Middle East. I was living on a ship and working out, and I had the look. But it wasn't popular back in the 90s because I look like an Aryan Nation member. And it wasn't the thing.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't.
I would probably be a dive master in Fiji, living on with my own dive boat, and I'd be happy. I'm not kidding. Like, that was one of my life goals at one point.
I drink to
I love diving.
And the main reason
Cheers.
what's the main reason why you wouldn't go and do it again? What's the main reason? Is it because of the scar tissue? Is it because of the maintenance you have to do? Is it because of the amount of procedures you have done? I mean, you could have had great hair transplant with just 2 or 3 procedures instead of 9. I know most
because it is still. Look, my brain is wired a specific way today because of what I went through. I went for 9 years with not 1 but 2 shit hair transplants on my head that could not be hidden. I was never in a job position where I would wear a hat. I couldn't wear a hat. I was always working in restaurants, bartending, waiting tables, things like that, like in nice restaurants. So you can't wear a ball cap in that kind of position. So
that must be
I had to suck it up. I had to deal with it publicly. And I do appreciate the lessons I learned from that, but my brain is wired in a way that, like, if I could take all the benefits from that and keep them, I would. But you can't do that. Like, you don't have time machines, and we can't separate the lessons that we learn, or separate the way that our brains are wired, just the good from the bad. But I wake up in the morning, and while my hair is not an issue for me, it is subconsciously. Like, I wake up, and one of the first things I do is I think about what my hair looks like. Yeah. Because for nine years, like, if I hooked up with a chick or something, it was like I would get up and run to the bathroom to check my hair, close the door, and check my hair. She had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it was a big deal.
It was
And it
traumatic,
fucks you up, man.
know?
It rewires your brain a certain way that I'd rather not be wired that way.
Yeah. So I guess
You know?
you say that the only time you should really go for a hair transplant surgery really is if you're doing maybe corrective surgery for your hair, or
No. I'm not going to speak for Joe, but you have to be a candidate on so many levels. It's not just, okay, you have enough donor hair and you can get a reasonable or good result if all goes well. You have to be an emotional candidate. You have to be prepared for everything that goes wrong. You probably shouldn't be a guy who's been able to live their life fully without hair, because you're just putting yourself at unnecessary risk to potentially change that part of yourself to or change your ability or alter your ability to live a full life. Right now, that's not in the equation. Right now, you figured it out. You live a full life without hair. You may not be able to live the same life once you get a hair transplant. Now, even if it's only a 5% risk, it's still a risk.
got it. No.
All right, man. We're going to go on to take another call.
Yeah, and I appreciate your honesty, guys, and thanks for the wonderful conversation. It really you shared a lot of info, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Dude,
much.
you got it. Good luck.
No, say hi to Dr. Pradeep for us.
Hello?
Bye-bye.
Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think McFly, think.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. We're trying, man. We're trying. Listen, everyone who's listening out there, you know, I think it's funny that, and I know this guy was probably joking, but there are people who are like, you're just a hair transplant cock blocker, man.
Yeah,
You know?
I am. And what's funny is I'm going to be seeing Dr. Seti next week, and he's going to be like, Joe, why are you stopping my patient?
What is going on?
What is going on, man? My brother, what are you doing? I love that guy. He's so good.
Well, I would say this.
Anywho.
That it's really not the definition of being a cock blocker. That's a bad definition. That doesn't even make sense, because it's not like you are envious that someone else is getting a goddamn hair transplant. You're trying to save their lives. Usually when you're a cock blocker, it's because you don't want the other guy to get laid, or you're envious about that. Isn't that the way that it works?
Well, cock blocker is also the girl's wing woman that's preventing you from hooking up because she's protecting her girl.
Oh, normally in my day, I would end up hooking up with her.
I'd hook up with both. Cheers.
I knew you would. I knew you were going to say that. 888-659-3727. Let's take another phone call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hey, is it me? It's Undercover.
Undercover.
What up, Undercover?
Undercover Doc. What's happening, man?
I'll tell you what. I got on the phone, and luckily I like the way that I can listen to the show on my phone. But I think I got a couple of suggestions for you guys right off the bat.
Yeah.
Before I forget.
Go ahead. We love suggestions.
Remember when here's one. I think you should have a way to check the IQ of your callers.
Oh, really?
And okay, we could discuss that a little longer. The second thing is
You're breaking up, Doc.
Uh-oh. Is it better now?
Yeah, just speaking to speaking to the mic.
Yes.
Maybe we need to check your IQ.
I'm a genius. I'm a genius.
I'm supposedly a genius too. My father used to bitch at my mother and us, and it's like, my son the genius, because I was such a shitty student.
Oh, you got to tell people, don't you know yet, my friend? You guys just got to tell people you're a genius. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
I'm a genius.
I'm a pioneer and a
my
genius.
My IQ is a genius.
Yeah,
all that good stuff. But how about this one though? I think you guys get so many callers, and nowadays when you can do different types of things on, through the phone and the camera, why don't you set up a situation where some of these guys can be referred to online therapy? psychological therapy.
That's what we do.
That's why we're here. What are you talking about?
Absolutely. You're Dr. Drew of hair.
That's it.
You're the hair blocker. You're the hair blocker.
I like that.
You're the hair. Hey, you're the hair whisperer.
I'm the hair
You're
whisperer.
The hair whisperer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, I know that, and I said that before, that your show is nothing but therapy. I don't know why. I don't know why listening to you made me want to blow my own brains out. Though I can tell you.
Wasn't Joe Biden the hair whisperer though?
He's wispy.
He's
wispy. Yeah,
Different
brother.
reference.
Well, go ahead, Undercover.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
And well, the thing is, though, I mean, if you get a really, you guys, if you had a real doctor that you could send these guys to and talk to them about the psychology of what's bothering them about their hair. Now, I'll tell you, I think I mentioned it to you. One of the ways that we could solve is hair loss insecurity. When kids are ages, say, 2 to 8, when they get their hair cut. Give them a crew cut. Keep them in a crew cut stage for in their formative years. And then we give them the option to let their hair grow. And by the time they start losing their hair again, at say 25 early, they won't be shattered. They'll go back to the way they looked in their formative years and say, yeah, I remember that. I was a happy guy. Everyone had their head shaved. Look at me. I look just like I used to. They'll look younger. They'll look younger to themselves because they go back to their 0 to 8 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
We could dress them all in white T-shirts and black pants, and everyone wears the same uniform, and it'll work out.
Yeah. And
where exactly are you going with that?
Huh?
No, but I know
sure.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Has a plastic surgeon patient who's in New Jersey who got 2 strip surgeries from me. Had a great looking result, which you can see online. He claimed that was an FUE procedure when he started doing hair transplants in his clinic, right? And the only way, so I see him at a meeting, and I didn't want to confront him like I'm confronting him now, but I said to him,
because you weren't on a cover. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so I said, how did the scar turn out in the back? Let me take a look. So I combed his hair looking for my scar, knowing that it was going to be just fine. But what did I see in the nape of his neck? I saw the dots, of an FUE procedure. So he was going to use that to pretend that his 2 results of my strip surgeries for his FUE transplant in his clinic. Okay? Now, I'll take it a step further. Let me take it a step further. This doctor thinks it's ethical and legal to actually take patients with any scar due to hair transplant surgery and give them a discount on their next surgery, claiming that he's going to phone it in to the insurance company to get some money back on the scar that he's going to deal with while he does their surgery. So in other words, a guy comes in for a $6,000, $8,000 surgery. Right off the bat, he shaves $2,000 off of it, sending it into the this insurance company.
But what does that have to do with him being Indian? Let's face it. I mean, listen, I know what you're saying, but or what you're trying to say, but your industry, your entire field was built by some of the most unethical motherfuckers I have ever encountered.
Yeah. Well, this guy just entered the field after he saw the opportunity with the FUE.
Yeah, because he's like, wait a second, look at these guys. I can do this.
I got a guy in Florida that contacted me. His sole drive for contacting me was to see if I could help him figure out how to set up a clinic. He wasn't a doctor. His plan was to hire technicians from other. He wanted to try and hire technicians from other clinics and set up his own clinic to do FUE strictly for the financial aspect of it. He wasn't a doctor. Like, he wasn't going to be involved in surgery at all. He was just going to hire some low-wage techs to do it for him. And
what country was
this is
it was
Florida.
It was the country of Florida.
Country of Florida.
Florida.
I've heard of that country.
Yeah,
I've heard of that country. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Did he get it off the ground?
And so that kind of mentality, that kind of thinking, that's been part of this industry since its inception.
What about the former?
It has nothing to do with anything else.
Long Island physician who's now, and we were talking about this last week, I don't know if you saw this video undercover, but guys, actually, he does. It's a 2-day process. First day he'll provide a hair transplant. Second day he'll provide a penile enlargement. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. And
why does he do it on
it's
2
a pack-
days? Why doesn't he do it on the same day?
Well, that's the thing. I think
do it on the
eventually
same
he'll
day?
probably rush it to the same day.
Because he's being ethical.
Now, I think if I recall correctly, undercover, you know this person well. He did have to take I think it was a forced hiatus from the field.
I do know who you're talking about, but that's in the top 5 people in my life that I wished I'd never met. He's number 1. That's absolutely true. He's the number 1 person in my life that I wish I'd never met. We could devote a whole hour here, however, to laughing over the ways that you could dupe the sucker who's born every minute out of their money.
Well, I think that's why you're such an important call. I think it's important that our listeners and our viewers hear this. It's great when you do the undercover segments, Doc, and we're going to do more of those. But to call in live when these guys are in the chat or they're watching or listening on iTunes or iHeart, like this guy that called in earlier, and he's going to have a hair transplant, no matter what we try to tell him. I mean, did you ever hear 2 guys try to talk somebody out of surgery to the degree that we are?
You started talking him out of it around the time I called. I couldn't take anymore. That's why I called. But you continued in the right way. The guy said that the worst. He said the most important thing about hair transplant is the donor management. In reality, the most important thing, donor management, of course, is important, but the reality is the most important thing is the result you're going to get on the top of your head.
Of course.
He admitted early that he didn't have good donor hair when he was questioning about body hair, et cetera, et cetera. So he's entering into this thing with a notion. He's so determined to go forward that he thinks that his probably below average donor hair on his scalp is going to be made up for with body hair. And that's when you get into the area when he's talking about risk. The risk when you start getting into body hair increases exponentially compared to what you're doing when you're doing it. And you talked about that. But basically, he's determined. I don't know if it's because he's traveling to India and the financial downside is going to be less. I'm not sure what they're charging, but I'm assuming that it's going to be less. The risk that he talks about, the risk of walking across the street or getting in his car and have an accident is not related one bit to what he's getting ready to go through. I mean,
look, when I plan on getting something done, okay, if I have to get something done, first of all, there's elective surgery. I had a procedure not too long ago. I've actually had a couple that I had to go back to New York to have done. And, you're like, okay, what's the downside of this? This needs to be done. So what's the downside? What's the upside? What are the possible, if the worst case scenario happens, what's my next step? You don't want to be thinking about that when you're having elective surgery, especially when it's something that you don't even, this guy lived his entire adult life bald and successfully bald.
Yeah.
Why put that on your plate?
What does his wife say about what does his wife? I wonder say about the fact that he's choosing to go forward with.
Well, listen. You know how it's marketed. It's marketed as a commodity. People see this on Instagram and on Facebook like it's a nothing procedure. His wife is probably saying, "Listen, honey, do what makes you feel good. I support it." Like the guys who are getting their cock enlarged. Whatever. I support it.
He's going to. Oh God! Well, remember that time we talked about and laughed actually about the idea of slicing the back of someone's head and sewing it back up. You got clinics set up everywhere. You got 100 clinics, and you're not even going to take any tissue, but you're going to go in the back room, and he's going to hear you grinding up something in the blender, probably your fruit smoothie. And you're going to come back and you're going to inject them any number of things today that you could actually inject into the scalp, claiming that those are considered hair grafts, and you could do 2,000 injections because it's a new therapy, it's experimental, and blah blah blah. And you can exponentially do the math. I always
undercover. You could inject saline into them, and then when they start getting chilled, you just say, "Oh, it's taking root. It's working."
Dude, undercover. And Joe, What about what's happening? There's this huge politician, a friend of yours and mine from the UK, who's banking people's hair.
Yeah, I heard that. I said, what a genius idea to charge for that. Give me a break. That's phenomenal.
You know
phenomenal.
what? It could be a subscription thing. This is the way that I would do it. Maybe this is the way that we will do it undercover.
Send it in like those teeth straightening things where you do Smile Direct.
Absolutely, or like Hims. Essentially, here's what you do: you go to one of our local offices, you send the shit in, and you pay a monthly fee of $200 a month or $100 a month to keep your shit on ice.
Yeah, and then the clinic where you're storing it happens to burn down.
Yeah.
It burns down.
Oh, we didn't say that this technology was ever going to come to fruition. You're paying us just to keep your shit on ice. Yeah, it's been 20 years, but whatever. If you stop paying, your precious cells go to waste. And you'll never have the same cells because their whole idea is that you want the youngest possible cells, stem cells, or dermal papilla cells, to then be able to create the most robust hair when this comes to fruition. So essentially, that throws the entire concept of donor dominance out the window. That means that guys who are in their 50s shouldn't have hair transplants because the hair won't grow as robustly as if they were in their 20s.
I wonder if we could actually get somehow the ability to get some stem cells from the infant, and then or the cord cells or whatever, and claim that we're going to bank those for future hair growth in case it comes to fruition.
Well, you know what? They actually do. There's a whole thing about banking people's umbilical cord or their umbilical cord cells when the baby's born.
I didn't know they were including.
And
hair?
I think that's what we should do. We should then include it for hair, so that would be part of the hospital system, and they get a kickback from that. And say, okay, and this is also for future hair loss, especially if it's a boy. It's only going to cost us $50 a month. We can have millions of patients. Dude, that's brilliant. Write that down. Let's make that happen.
Yeah, I'm taking notes now too. You know the hair transplant field now with FUE and everybody on every corner doing FUE is a commodity and really don't understand the nuances of how to make the hair transplant itself look good. It brings me to the point where in my career, I don't even admit to people my age when they ask me what I do for a living that I'm a hair transplant doctor. Because there's so many bad results walking around in my neighborhood that I don't even want them to know. I tell them I'm a surgeon, period. And they report,
Well, I can tell you that you have, and I know the area of New York that you're in, there are a lot of Armenians. There's a lot of Albanians. There are plenty of, there's a pretty big community of Turkish community as well. Maybe not in that borough.
They have all gone to Albania too.
Yeah.
I mean, they've all gone to Turkey.
To Turkey, yeah.
They've all gone.
And
I've seen the results.
And they're all getting some really lousy, and I say all, a lot of these guys are getting some really lousy SMP also.
Oh, that's by definition as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, you see these guys, they're walking around with tattooed helmets on.
Now there's an idea. How about helmets? Microdot helmets. Or microdot wigs. Why don't we do the bald wig in the movies and stuff? Instead, we'll do microdot wigs.
That's it.
How about that? From China.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Listen,
I know. I'm giving you my ideas now. I'm writing them down too.
And for guys who are just tuning in, listen, we're doing this tongue in cheek, but this is the reality. We're talking to a guy, undercover hair transplant surgeon, who has been in this field for how many years, Doc? 25 years? 30 years? 26 years. Who has seen it all.
Yep.
And he is giving you just some, insight into what and how. Insight onto how vulnerable you suckers really are and how easy it is to take advantage of you guys. And the fact that it's being done every day. And it's now scaled to a point. And Doc, I've been in the industry for 23 years, going on 23 years. I mean, it was bad when I started. It doesn't even compare to what it is today.
Hey, the last caller, actually, you were actually trying to help him, but you were actually doing a takeaway on him, telling him not to do it. The more you told him not to do it, the more determined he was going to go jump off the bridge.
Yeah.
It was a no sale.
You better be careful.
That's what I try to tell.
You better be careful.
Well, that's what I try to tell the members of my organization who have once in a while have complained about they tune into the shows like, why are you talking people out of surgery? I'm like, I can't talk anybody out of surgery. Not going to happen. And those that I do, they definitely have. They may be a little sharper than some others. But
can I ask you technically, if a caller like myself could call in, can I enter the conversation live with the other guy on? I'm going to deal with.
Yes, you can.
Caller?
Absolutely.
You can do that.
Yes.
Wow. I wish I had known that a minute ago, but I didn't. So maybe another time. Hey, on a separate note, though, I want to just switch gears slightly here. I lost a patient to coronavirus. I had a guy scheduled to come. Yeah, listen.
You lost him like he dropped dead?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
But no, not yet. He was scheduled for next Tuesday. He called me tonight and said he wanted to postpone until this coronavirus scare is over. Or more information on the coronavirus. In other words, he was basically saying to me, I haven't called him back yet because the guy's a little bit out there, sort of very eccentric, I would call him. And he's somebody that he's actually had 2 surgeries and went to a third doctor and had an interesting conversation. All of his experience in this field is worth talking about in a minute. But before we get there, he's thinking that he's going to come in my clinic and somehow he's going to contract. Basically, he's insinuating that he could come in my clinic and actually catch coronavirus. Otherwise, why would he be concerned about it? In other words, myself or my staff has to transmit it to him during the surgery.
Oh, sure.
He's that thinking.
But I understand that. But also, I think that obviously the media's. I'm not saying that this isn't a real threat, but I mean, think about how blown out of proportion this thing is. We may not understand it like we do the flu, but we do when we base it on the numbers. At least, even if you extrapolate and quadruple the numbers of people infected, and then quadruple the number of deaths, it still doesn't approach what we deal with every year with the flu.
When I was listening to your show, as I was waiting and watching before I called, actually, the evening news tonight, the whole half hour was devoted to coronavirus.
Sure.
I mean, they're reporting every new case and every new death. I mean, it's like 24. It's like a hurricane coming through.
Joe is actually, he's about to get his first shipment of hair transplant mentor coronavirus masks that he's going to be selling on his website.
Exactly. They're in 95. They're in 95 masks, so they're only $99.95 each.
I think our friend in Rhode Island may be doing that. I'm not sure. But
yeah, I think
you know the guy I'm talking about.
Well, if you run out of in Rhode Island, yeah, I do indeed. I talked to an old friend of mine, a lady that I dated many years ago, and she actually watches Fox News and saw that advertisement for Crapillis. I mean,
Capillis?
Helmet.
Did you say Crapillis?
Crapillis.
Yeah.
Crapillis.
That's hilarious.
Crapillis.
Is that in Greece?
It looks like it could be from Greece, but.
And she asked you. She's like, "Does that work?"
She wanted to know my opinion about whether she should go for it or not. It's funny that we're talking about this because, interestingly, this week, listening to Talk Radio Sports here, the Fan, those guys were all over that. Or the moderators of the show, Boomer, et cetera, we're talking about those ads on, and the guy was just laughing about it. They were all laughing hysterically, and lo and behold, what happened? 2 callers, young guys, called in, said they bought one, and one guy was sure that he went on a cruise with it, and within 10 days, his hair was looking better.
10 days.
10 days, yeah. The other guy had similarly unrealistic, results to report. But I mean, basically, a couple of callers like that would override, as you know, the moderators making fun of the whole thing.
Oh, dude,
it's kind of an interesting ad, very, very carefully worded.
Well, let's put it this way: there's a guy who's with the IHRS. He's a guy in Atlanta, maybe not the person that you're thinking of, and he just shot a commercial with our friend from Rhode Island, and was putting up images on on Instagram today, and there's a Capillus commercial. I'm thinking, man, if you just waited another month, you would have been able to shoot a commercial for the first American Hair Loss Association approved laser cap.
So
Joe?
Yeah.
he went down there. He went down there for a Capillus commercial.
Apparently, I think Undercover Doc calls it Crapolis.
Yes.
Listen, Doc, we got a board of phone calls.
I do that to protect myself.
Yeah, we got
You know?
that's true. We got a board of phone calls. We're going to take some more calls. Guys.
Let me say one more thing before I go. Hold
Yeah.
on, I got one more fun thing to tell you. Do you remember last year at the Los Angeles meeting? I told you there was a booth there that I came across where the guy was selling vials of growth factors the manufactured growth factors, the ones that you get from PRP.
Yeah.
You could either use it as a topical or you could inject it, either one. Okay, and I was trying to convince you. I was trying to convince you that that would be great because I wouldn't have to draw the blood. How much easier would it be to do that without having to draw the patient's blood? So I believe exosomes come along with a new word, and they've taken that space.
Yeah, and you weren't trying to convince me. You're trying to convince me to go into business with you. I'm just kidding.
I was trying to convince myself that it was a good idea. I couldn't do it. So I came to you for a second opinion, knowing that if we could go into it together, that I could go through with it. But I knew that you were going to be a hair blocker, so I took it to you.
I'm a hair blocker.
We got a laugh out of it. I don't know why that guy at the booth though. They were so low key about selling it. I was suspicious.
Listen, Doc, I'm getting older now, and I'm going to stop blocking hair as much. I think I tell everybody on the show, you'll know when I sell out, and I can even say that I'm selling out. It doesn't make a difference. People are still going to buy my shit.
It will make a difference. Yep.
Well, I want you to do me a favor. I want a soundbite right here and say that when you decide to do your hair transplant, you're coming to Undercover Doc. And I say it. Come on,
I'm not saying shit.
Oh.
That is professional suicide.
I'll put it on my.
It really is.
Put it on my website.
All right, Doc. Listen, always a pleasure. I'm glad you called in.
Okay.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for calling.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right, guys. We're going to take one more call. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hello?
Hi, my name. Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Hi. My name is Abdul Manan. I did not know my call would go through. So,
there's a lot of background noise and a lot of shit going on. Are you like you sound like you're like in a meat factory or some shit.
Yeah, I was in the gym and I was just listening, so I just came out now.
Now, do you have a headset that you could use that is not Bluetooth, or can you talk directly into the speaker of the phone, the microphone?
How about now?
About now? That's better.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So, my name is Abdul. I'm from Pakistan. I have had, I'm sorry, I'm out of breath because I was working out.
Take your time.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, I'm from Pakistan. I have had 3 hair transplants. 2 of them were from Pakistan, and the last one I got from here in United States, from New York, Dr. Bloxham. So
Dr. Who?
Been 8 months.
Dr. Who?
Bloxham.
Okay.
Bloxham.
Bloxham, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
it's been 8 months since I have had that hair transplant, and still waiting for the results to come. That one was in the crown area. That's my story.
Yeah, you're breaking up again. So are you? So what's your question? Are you concerned about your result? Are you happy with the result? And it's only 8 months, but what's up?
It's been 8 months, so I think I'm still waiting for the results to come, because I know that the crown area takes 12 to 18 months to mature completely. So from my family history, I know that I'm about 6 to 7, and I've been told that all the hair on my top of my head, they have been transplanted. So I know that no matter how many hair transplants I get, probably I'm not going to be able to get as good of a result, and I'll end up using Topic.
How old are you?
No matter how many. I'm 30 right now.
Okay. And you've had a total of 3 hair transplants. And let me ask you this: how were the how were the results from the transplants you had in Pakistan?
So the first one, I was too young. I think I was 21, 22. I was in the medical school at that time, and I had not done a lot of research, and it was just I was losing hair, and actually when the transplant finished and when the transplant results got in after an year, actually I had lesser hair as opposed to before the transplant, because I think I was still progressing. My hair loss had not stabilized.
You were progressing. You were progressing, and you know to provide somebody who has aggressive hair loss at such a young age surgery without giving them all the information they need about potential future hair loss, putting them on medication. Were you put on medication?
I was not.
Yeah. And and we're talking about just 8 years ago. I mean, this is when finasteride had already been on the market for well over 15 years, and Propecia was on the market for over a decade by that point. So any physician providing hair transplants or performing hair transplants or worth their salt or who knows anything about hair loss would have at the very least had a discussion with you about the potential of using finasteride to slow down the progression of your hair loss or even stop it instead of performing surgery on you.
Exactly. I completely agree. And I was too young. I had not done my research. So I cannot even blame the doctor. I think, but I could not even blame myself because I think I was just 20 years old.
You can't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's the doctor's fault.
Right. Yeah, he should have turned you away.
He should have turned you away. He should have said, here's a prescription. Come back in a year and let's see how you do. And then we'll reassess.
Exactly. And thinking back at it, this is my 3rd hair transplant. If I just want to convey this message to anybody who's listening, that if I had the option, I would not have gotten the hair transplant.
Say that again. Say that again. You're still breaking up a little bit.
If I knew better, I would not have gotten any of the hair transplants. I would just have shaved off my hair, and I would probably have lived like that. But I don't know. Like my younger brother, he's 21 years old right now, and I've told him to take finasteride right now. And if push comes to shove, just shave it off. Don't do any hair transplants. But for myself, because I already have FUT scar on the back of my head, so I think I just probably have to deal with it. So I've gotten my 3rd hair transplant. I'm still waiting for the full results to come in and see what happens.
Well, let me ask you some more questions. So you had 1 hair transplant that was basically a bust. You had a 2nd hair transplant, and now you've had your 3rd hair transplant. I'm assuming it was a strip if you went to Dr. Bluxham.
Correct.
And you was there any success to your prior transplants? Because I just find it interesting that you would have any physician would transplant your crown, especially after having 1 unsuccessful hair transplant. And I don't know unless the 2nd hair transplant that you had was very successful, it just seems like most physicians would want to concentrate on where you really needed the hair. And if you have started at such a young age and you're saying that you're already Norwood 6, I'm assuming that you lost your hairline, correct?
I did, and I was actually told by the guy who did my 2nd hair transplant that all the hair on top of my head, they are transplanted. They're not my own. So yeah.
Okay, so when you tell me about your 2nd hair transplant, and then we'll get to your 3rd.
So the second hair transplant was from one of the renowned guys in Pakistan. His name is Dr. Humayun. I'm not sure if you know about him or not.
What is his
I
name?
think
I never heard of this guy.
Humayun. Okay. He's one of the renowned guys in Pakistan. So he did my second hair transplant. He focused on the center part of my head, vertex and the hairline. He did not do anything on the crown. So still, my second hair transplant was approximately 4 to 5 years ago. So I think I might have had more hair loss even after that. But after my second hair transplant, I had hair on my hairline, on my vertex, but nothing on my crown. That was completely empty.
How much? Okay, so how much hair did you have? Was it a significant amount of hair in your hairline and vertex? Was it very thin? It could have been improved in that area because that's really the area that frames your face and gives you your appearance.
It could have been, but by no amount it was like, I cannot say that it was a dense hairline, but it was not a bad amount either.
Okay.
I think I would say that it was a successful hair transplant given my hair are thin to medium.
So why didn't you go back? Why didn't you go back to him? Joey lost your camera, by the way. Why didn't we go back? Why didn't you go back to him for your third?
Because I was concerned that this might be my last hair transplant because of my donor reserve. So I had the money, so I just wanted to get the best I think hair transplant that I possibly could. So I did my research and on Dr. Bloxham, I think he came in, and I just wanted the best. He was best in Pakistan, but I knew that I could get a better hair transplant surgeon in the United States. So that's why.
Okay, no, I understand. I'm trying to figure out. So what? I'm trying to be diplomatic here, but what made you determine that you found the best doctor in the United States?
That's a good question. I did a lot of research. I saw the pictures. I saw. I think. I went to this. I heard a lot about you. I heard a lot from your channel too, and Joe's channel too. And I think I did a lot of research, and I shortlisted him and Dr. Bernstein from New York, and there was another guy from New York. I forgot his name, but I think he was an ENT doctor, and then he came into hair transplantation. I forgot his name. So I went to Dr. Bernstein, and I went to Dr. Bloxham. Dr. Bernstein said that... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say, what did Dr. Bernstein tell you?
So Dr. Bernstein said that he would take out 1,000 grafts and just focus on the front of my head and not worry about the crown of my head. That was not something I was interested in. And I had heard that Dr. Bernstein was a very conservative surgeon.
Well, I would say Dr. Bernstein. I would use the term, and he uses this term too. I would say he's an appropriate surgeon. Let's put it that way. He makes the appropriate choice for the patient.
Yeah, and I think I agree. I've read his articles too. I know he's probably one of the biggest names in the industry too. But it was just the plan. I wanted this to be my last surgery because I did not want to be put under the knife again and again. From Dr. Bernstein, I had to probably just get this done once and then.
You got to speak into your mic again. Can you speak into your microphone?
So from Dr. Bernstein's standpoint, I probably would have to go through 2 surgeries. In the first surgery, it would focus on the front part of my head. And in the second surgery, if I had enough legs, it would address my spine.
You got to speak into the microphone, dude. You're breaking up
again. I went to Bloxham, and he said that it would just mega session and focus on the areas that I wanted to focus on.
Okay, so you said he would. You went to Bloxham. He offered you a mega session and just focus on the areas that you wanted him to focus on.
Yeah, not mega session. It was 2,200 grafts. I'm not sure.
Now
if
I
it would
understand
call-
that, especially as a young person, as also someone who's been through what you've been through, how you wanted to kind of just get it over with and get it done, and someone was there to offer you the option that you wanted. But when it comes to medicine, and it comes to plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery, this type of cosmetic surgery, which is so nuanced and difficult, especially since you have such a limited supply. In my view, I think the appropriate or conservative approach, as you put it, is probably the most responsible approach. But it doesn't mean that you're going to be better off either way. It just means that, when approaching a patient like you, if I was a physician, I probably would have taken Bob Bernstein's approach. With that said, It doesn't mean that you're not going to get a great result that you want with Dr. Bloxham. But I would say that at the 8-month mark, you probably have a decent idea of what is going to happen in the next 4 months. I don't know if you agree with that, Joe.
I didn't hear the last part of it, but most of what I did hear, I do agree with.
That's an affirmative from Joe Tillman.
That's an affirmative, yes.
Joe,
100%.
So okay, let's get to your question. I mean, did you basically just call in? Hey, you have an incredible story. I'm sorry that you had to have gone through everything that you've gone through at such a young age. I know how difficult it is, but I do find it interesting that based on your experiences, now you would say if you had it to do all over again, you would just shave your head. Is that right, caller? All right, we lost you.
Okay, we lost him. All right.
Anyway, I wanted to hear what he finally had to say about his experience, but he said that he's not sure. And the whole 12 to 16-month or 15-month thing, I call bullshit in general when I hear most people saying that.
Well, I can tell you I can tell you for a fact that it's that is not the like 12 to 18 months. There's some maturing that happens.
Yes.
But it's not new growth. Like I have seen cases where, like at 14 months, the patient had more growth than he did at 13 months or 12 months or 16 months more growth than he did at 14 months, things like that. That's the exception, not the rule. Usually, if you have a hair transplant in a spot where, any difference would be obvious difference, you're going to know by 8 months what's going to happen. Like, at 8 months, you've got the majority of all the growth has been not only broken through, but has been established and has got some sort of length. And then it will continue to look better from 8 months to 12 months, but it's not so much growth as it is lengthening and of the hair shafts and thickening of the hair shafts. Because a lot of times they come in, they're finer hairs, they get thicker over time. But 12 to 16 months, no, that is not normal. And in my view, based on doctors I know and doctors that I've dealt with in the past, that is just putting people off.
Yeah,
it's it's 8 months. No, you're not even halfway there. That's horseshit.
Yeah, I'm not a physician, and I can't give medical advice, and I'm basing all of my my commentary on just anecdotal experiences from other people and just being in this field for so long. I agree with Joe. I call bullshit. Bullshit. In my view, that is textbook saying it's going to be okay. You're going to get plenty more growth. Early days, my man, early days. And then put down the phone and pray that the guy doesn't call back.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I'm not making a definitive statement. I have no idea if that's the case. I have no idea if that was done to this patient.
Because we weren't there.
We were not there. We got a full board. I mean, did you want to take another call? Or what do you want to do, Joe?
Let's try one more.
All right. Let's see
a short one.
Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Oh, God. I put my phone on just so I could listen to it on the phone. It's easier this way.
Jesus Christ!
You had one shot, man. You had one shot.
Hold on.
Hey, I got some more for you if you want it, though.
Hold on.
Let me tell you one before.
All right, one quick one. Go ahead.
Okay, so a patient I had a week ago was trying to convince his friend while he was in the patient's in my office trying to convince his friend to come to me for a hair transplant, or at least consider coming for a consultation. The guy already had booked with a fairly new plastic surgeon doing hair transplant. I mean, the plastic surgeon fairly new doing hair transplants with the robot. And this guy had told his friend that robot was the future, and I looked it up on the phone right then and there, and sure enough, that's what it said on his website on the robot information. The future of hair transplants. That one line alone had convinced this guy that he wanted to do, the future.
It's a fucking robot, of course. Everyone thinks it's the future. I mean, I'm waiting for my robotic woman.
Here's the thing. Hey, you don't have one yet? I got mine already.
Yeah, dude, dude, I'm waiting for the next iteration.
The future is now with the robotic woman. But anyway, here's what I wanted to tell you. This doctor planned to use the robot to core all the FUE grafts on the first day. 24 hours later, leaving them theoretically in situ there in the patient's scalp, and then come back the next day to pluck them out and transplant them. Have you ever heard anybody doing that?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I was just disrupted.
He wanted to use the robot to core all the potential FUE grafts that eventually they would pluck out that day, and then the patient would come back the next day with the cord graft still in his scalp.
Yeah,
and then they were going to proceed.
Yeah, that is a very interesting, and I think probably not a great way to go about it. I mean, as soon as you're cored, aren't you starting to heal already?
You are actually starting to heal. I really pondered this.
Joe?
Are you sure? I've not heard of it like that. I've heard it backwards from what you just said, where they make the incisions, the recipient site incisions, the day before, and then come in the next day to have the extractions, so that they can insert more quickly. They don't have to make the incisions after extractions. But you're saying that, but they're scored, but left in overnight.
Left in overnight. Bandaged and left in overnight, wrapped, wrap his head up with them, scored. Come back the next day, take them out of that scored situation, and then put them into...
What's the logic behind that? I don't get it. I don't understand what the logic would be behind that.
Time constraints, whatever. It was going to take him a certain amount of time in this office. He's doing other procedures. He thinks it's a novel, logical approach. That was going to be my next visit. Undercub was headed out there. That's my next destination, to be honest with you. That clinic.
Well, that's one. That's an undercover I can get behind. I'd love to hear that one.
Well, I pondered it though. I thought about it. I said, in reality, you're right. It's healing, but if they actually popped out, which they're prone to do with the robot, and they'll lay there on the scalp overnight, they're definitely dead. But if they actually stayed in the, you would just have simply the same thing as a wound. I'm not so sure it would die. I'm not sure. I would like to get some other opinions from other doctors in my field that I know and trust. But I wonder. I mean, could you leave them in there, semi-healing, clotting slightly, but they're in their warm environment?
Do you really trust anybody, though?
Well, I would assume that to be more traumatic, because once it starts to heal, then there's more trauma in ripping it free of the wound. But I understand making the recipient sites the day before, because the logic is that because it's starting to heal, that growth factors are rushing into each wound, and then when you place a graft into it, then it's a more prime environment for placement.
Well, it was also the blood and the needle stick, the recipient site, will start to clot and make it slightly stickier. That was one of the things that I heard about that. But I've never done that
too. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people doing that, and that was accepted. But I've never heard this other idea of actually coring the scalp. Think about it for a minute. I mean, I've never heard of anybody taking a strip out and then suturing the wound closed and then inserting FUE grafts in between the sutures to try to get the same thing as a trichophytic type of closure. The graft should grow in that slit. And they should be able
I've
to
had patients ask me about that, but I've never seen that done in practice.
That's something I've thought about trying, actually. But
Wow.
not even using taking FUE grafts to put in there, but just putting a few, single hair or two hair, something you could identify.
Well, Doc, you drove all of our callers away.
Well, they weren't there anyway, or you wouldn't have been picking up my phone call. You know it.
That
we
is
had 5 callers tonight.
That is not true.
Well, that's okay. I really wish that I had gotten that sound bite that I talked about, though, because that's a good one. That's how they do it. Those guys on the television media, they trick somebody into saying something that they could use later.
Oh yeah, how do you think I got Sammy Hagar to say you're listening to Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth? We got drunk. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's not true. By the way, I did not get drunk with Sammy Hagar. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you know that the Greek doctor that we were speaking of earlier has a partner? Both of them look like they're taking some substance to darken their skin, but the other one that we refer to as the most interesting man in the world.
Yes,
he's also advertising a hair product, endorsing a hair product on Fox in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
Early in the morning.
Yeah,
4 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, everyone's in the game, man. Everyone's just like, fuck it, selling out.
Yeah. I was going to call them that too. They sold out. It's time.
And but here's the thing. I would say that is not something that is inconsistent with this person's character. I mean, this is something that has been going on since the beginning of his career and many people's careers. So I mean, you can't blame him. It's the way that it is. It's the way these guys entered the field.
No, it's my fault that I don't do that, and it's my fault that I'm not injecting exosomes. But
yeah, we're just fucking bitter because everyone else is selling out, and we're not.
Made so much damn money. Everybody made so much damn money, and I'm looking forward to my Social Security.
All right, Doc, we're gonna call it a night. Yeah. Listen,
okay.
we'll do some undercover stuff when you're ready.
I'm always ready. You just got to pay me now. The price went up because I realize how in demand I am.
That's true, dude. Essentially, I am paying you, but we'll talk about that later. All right, man.
We'll take it off my account.
We'll talk to you later, man. Take care. All right, bye-bye. All right, let's turn off the phones.
Turn them off.
Fucked up. I had 3 calls on the line, and I chose him.
And he had to screw it up.
No, he's the best. He is the best.
Oh, no, I would appreciate him calling.
When I do the undercover segments, I mean, I'm laughing so hard. There's stuff that I can't even put out there. It's so fucked up. Yeah.
You should send me the clips.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. And this is the undercover stuff. I can't even put it out there.
That's bad.
It is bad.
Excuse me.
Oh, dude. But I think it's great, especially when we have the live show, when he calls in and talks about, listen, guys, you're all being conned. I'm a doctor. I'm telling you. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, he's a doctor. He's telling you guys, you're being conned by these doctors.
By these doctors. It's fucking amazing.
Great.
I don't want to get out of here, so let's just, let's give out your shit. I'll do it.
Let's give out my shit. Okay, you do it.
If you want to check out Joe Tillman's personal website, and I say personal website, it's his professional website, but it's his website. It's hairtransplantmentor.com. Everything Joe Tillman. Learn about why this guy knows his shit. Been in the trenches for 18 years. Been a hair loss sufferer since Brooklyn was a prairie.
I like that. That's good.
Quite a long time.
Since Brooklyn was a prairie.
And
that's a long time.
And he knows where all the bodies are buried, just like me. But you know what? He has a different perspective on things because he's an actual hair transplant patient who's been through the mill and back and lived to tell about it. So check out hairtransplantmentor.com. A lot of incredible information. And I always think it's great just to kind of get to know to go to his site to get to know who Joe really is, if you don't know him already. Also, his
Good start.
His YouTube page. It's youtube.com/ and he hates when I say that. It's / okay? / hair transplant mentor. That's youtube.com / hair transplant mentor. You can see, first of all, subscribe to the fucking page, guys, please. Subscribe to Joe's channel. Subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified when he puts up a video or we go live. And take the time now, if you're on there now, watch every video. Watch every video a few times and like them.
Like every video. Comment on every video.
Yeah. Do that. It's not a big deal.
I actually read comments.
Yeah, and the guys who are actually watching the program on Joe's page right now, we have 17 likes. Why isn't there 100 likes? How is that not possible?
There have been about 300 people cycling through this broadcast. So there should be a lot more likes. Just saying.
Just take the time to like the show now. I appreciate it. We do everything for nothing. Right?
Not for nothing. It's not for nothing. It's
to help
for
people.
Accolades.
Oh.
For accolades and trophies. Free beer at the bar.
Free beer at the bar. I got to tell you, bartenders love the hair loss guys.
Hot wings.
Actually sounds really good.
It does, actually.
I can go for a night of drinking and hot wings. There's another YouTube channel that I think you guys should take the time to subscribe to because we put up some content there. We're putting up shorter segments of the Bald Truth. Basically, we're putting up the podcast of this live broadcast. Yep. So, with that said, if you go over to youtube.com / Bald Truth Radio, you'll see what we're putting up there. There's also some great undercover doc segments that you can check out. And we're going to be putting up a lot more content. So please, I think there's like 400 and some odd subscribers. Turn that into 1,000 right now. Get us to that point. You guys can do it right. It's easy. Just go there, subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll get notifications. And we're going to get that thing launched. Also, how about Platinum Follicle? Yeah, the Platinum Follicle Award. That's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
What else? Oh, go to iTunes and to Spotify. Those segments that you see on the podcast page, you're going to get the audio versions of the podcast now as well. Going to put up about 2 a week until we are caught up, which is going to take about 17 years. But you guys will have the opportunity, and, you know, we need you guys to do this. If you want to get the word out there and help other people who are dealing with what you're dealing with, if you want to help guys like our callers who are like, you know, one guy regrets that he had a hair transplant, another guy that's about to get a hair transplant who probably shouldn't have a hair transplant. If you want to help other people like this, all you have to do is subscribe to our shit. Make it grow. That's it. That's the only thing we ask of you. Well said.
Subscribe to our shit.
Subscribe to our shit. TheBaldTruth.com, archives of this broadcast. American Hair Loss Association is AmericanHairLoss.org. If you're considering surgical hair restoration or, as it's known in the business, hair transplant surgery, check out the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. That's IAHRS.org. Our message forum, of course, is baldtruthtalk.com. Until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.